point here, which is that the Supreme Court is self-policing, and they just got an ethics code after all of these controversies within the last year. Lower courts have to operate on one of those. Really, oversight comes from Congress. But right now we have divided government. Republicans control the House, and the Senate, of course, is controlled by Democrats. So what options are there to provide oversight to the Supreme Court at this point?
They are really few, especially, as you say, in a time of divided government. It's basically politics. So we have this current brouhaha with Justice Alito. He has written to the Congress, nobody could reasonably question my impartiality that the flag was flying. You know, think about it for a moment. Say you were involved in a gay rights case, you were on the other side, and you pass a judge's house and the gay pride flag is flying. Might you think reasonably that person won't be impartial? Of course you might, but it's only now to Justice Alito's say so. And it will remain that way. The only real thing a Congress can do is kind of shine a light on it in individual instances. But even this new code, it will be to them. There are essentially no tools. I know there's talk on the Hill, and they can have hearings and investigate. But short of impeachment, there are very few tools to actually force the Supreme Court to hew to its own, not just its own, the code of ethics that every federal judge complies with in the federal system. Right. It's a problem.
Yeah, you brought up Justice Samuel Alito. I do want to ask you specifically about him. A former neighbor of his is questioning the justice's explanation for that upside-down American flag that you mentioned that was seen flying at his Virginia home in 2021. And you mentioned the letter that he wrote to lawmakers. He said it was in response to, quote, a very nasty neighborhood dispute. But the neighbor said this. We can listen.
At best, he's mistaken, but at worst, he's just outright lying. The interaction that happened on February 15th is the one that they're using as an excuse for why they flew the flag. And I really want to hammer home the fact that that happened on February 15th, and their flag went up 2 or 3 weeks before that.
So that neighbor saying that the timeline is incorrect that he's put out there. Do you think that Justice Alito misled or lied to Congress in his explanation of events? And more broadly, people will say, oh, what about this flag thing? What is it? Why does it matter that we're talking about this? Why does it matter that this happened with a Supreme Court justice?
So let's start there. The flag was understood at the time, this is just after January 6th, as a stop the steal blazing statement. So why would it matter that a Supreme Court justice who might have to sit on January 6th cases, but even beside that would be asserting there is a steal going on of the election, among other reasons, because it's false. There was no steal going on, but also because it's such a sign of partisanship that you would certainly question their ability to be impartial. And Alito himself has distanced himself from it, which is an implicit understanding that if he himself were flying the flag, it would be a problem. Now, as to this discrepancy, the neighbor says that there is material evidence. We have a picture in the New York Times in January and a police report at the altercation in February, which Justice Alito says triggered it. Look, I'm not saying that the neighbor's word should be taken over that of a justice of the United States. However, there is the discrepancy, and I really think it's essential to get to the bottom of it. If it's the case, I am not saying it's the case, but if it is that Justice Alito sent a letter to the Congress and didn't tell the truth in it, that is exceptionally grave. I think that would be an impeachable offense. And of course, that might not go forward in the current climate. But even so, that prospect really requires that the Senate or that oversight in the Congress, that you get to the bottom of it. There are material discrepancies. It's enough to have a hearing and look into it.
All right, Harry Litman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have more news in a moment.
The most anticipated moment of this election, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The president and the former president, one stage.